Hey, this is Jelani Stokes, and today on Artist Spotlight, we're going to be talking about New Edition. The R&B group New Edition hails from Boston, Massachusetts. The group was formed in 1978 and originally consisted of Ricky Bell, Michael Bivins, Bobby Brown, Ronnie DeVoe, and Ralph Tresvant. Early hits included Candy Girl, Popcorn Love, Cool It Now, and Mr. Telephone Man. Brown left the group in late 1985 to begin a successful solo career. They continued as a quartet for one album before adding Johnny Gill to the lineup in 1987. Their breakthrough album, Heartbreak, featuring Johnny Gill, included hits like If It Isn't Love, Can You Stand the Rain, Any Heartbreak, and Crucial. After the Heartbreak album, the group moved on to solo projects with Gill and Tresvant releasing solo albums, and the remaining three formed the trio Bell, Biv, DeVoe. All six members of New Edition reunited in 1996 to record the group's sixth album, Home Again. Since then, they have participated in various reunions and continue to perform to this day. All right, there you go. Just a little background information on New Edition. Now it's time for my 2 cents. New Edition is considered to be the Godfathers of the boy band. I say this because without New Edition, we would not have New Kids on the Block. You would not have Boys to Men. You would not have the Backstreet Boys. You would not have NSYNC, O-Town, 98 Degrees, One Direction, or any boy band that you can think of. So ladies and gentlemen, without New Edition, a lot of what we know and a lot of what we've heard over the last 20 years would be non-existent without these 6 individuals. This is how. In 1983, New Edition released their first album that was called Candy Girl. The album was written and produced by a Boston producer by the name of Maurice Starr. After that album, the members and their family of New Edition were disgruntled, and I mean they were upset with the amount of money that they had received from all of the proceeds on Candy Girl. Mind you, this was a super successful album for the first one. They each member took home reportedly $1.87. Yes, $1.87. Because of this, New Edition felt that some shady things were going on with either Maurice Starr or the record company. So because of that, they decided to leave Maurice Starr at that moment and go on to MCA Records. Maurice Starr, already having a little success with New Edition and saying, wow, that worked, decided on his own to say, okay, if I can't have New Edition, I'm going to create my own New Edition. He set out to find 5 white individuals to form what he was going to consider the white New Edition, which ended up becoming New Kids on the Block. And we know, for those who are my age or a little older, they became one of the biggest pop sensations of the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, they were everywhere. And it all started with New Edition. So keep that in mind. New Edition doesn't get as much recognition as I believe it should, but they really are the godfathers of the boy band. All right, my second part of my 2 cents is this. The members of New Edition seem to have more success as solo artists than they did as a collective in New Edition. Now, before we could talk about everybody's solo success, we have to start in 1985 with Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown in 1985 was unanimously dismissed by the other 4 members of New Edition because their managers felt that Bobby was becoming a liability for the group's bubblegum image, which they really all didn't like. But they framed it in the mindset of, if he stays in the group, he's going to mess it up for everybody. So they kicked him out. There was a clause in MCA's contract that allowed Bobby to record a solo album with MCA. He started with King of the Stage, and then he went on to have the monster hit Don't Be Cruel, which had the song most of you still remember to this day, My Prerogative. That single shot him straight to the pop charts, and literally he was the king of R&B from the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, he was one of the top pop stars ever. And then he married Whitney Houston, which really put him on a whole nother stratosphere, because now Whitney Houston was just one of the hugest pop stars out there. And for her to get with Bobby Brown, it just literally kind of pushed him up even more by just association. So when Bobby left, they continued as a quartet for about a year or so. And then rumblings began that Ralph Tresvant, their lead singer, was starting to work on a solo album, and he was starting to get a little disgruntled with the group itself, because he felt as though he was doing all of the work and the other guys were just kind of laying back doing what they needed, but he was really the one in the studio recording, doing all the singing, doing the overdubs, and they kind of did what they needed to do and then leave, and he was kind of carrying the ball. So he was kind of really ready to go do his own thing. So he was recording an album that was called Living in a Dream, which has never been released to this day. Bobby heard this album, and from Ralph's accounts, Bobby took that style and put it into Don't Be Cruel, taking what Ralph was getting ready to pop off and using it for himself. And Ralph always said that was something that happened. So as he was recording this album, Michael Bivins, sensing that Ralph was getting ready to leave, went and contacted a current solo artist by the name of Johnny Gill. And to make a long story short, he convinced Johnny to join the group. Here's the situation that really is just interesting. During all of this, Ralph never knew. And Ralph never was planning to leave the group. He was just kind of doing a solo album. So when they all come together for the recording of their Heartbreak album, Ralph comes into the studio with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and it's the first time he's heard that they got a new member. First time he sees Johnny Gill as a member of New Edition. And it became a huge issue at that moment, which understandably so. If you're part of the group, you would like to know if somebody's being added, right? But on the other side, you know, the other guys felt like if Ralph left, they would kind of be left holding the bag, because none of them were considered to be lead singers, although they would develop into that. You know, they needed somebody to come in and step in if Ralph was going to be leaving. So they kind of got stuck back to being five. So they record the Heartbreak album, they kind of bury the hatchet, and that becomes literally their biggest album to date at that point. So at that moment, Johnny was going to go back to a solo career, because he was going to go ahead and still be a solo artist. He just kind of joined New Edition, did that album, and then he was going to go back. So Johnny went back to do a solo thing. The other three members of New Edition, the background singers, Ronnie DeVoe, Michael Bivins, and Ricky Bell, were contemplating what they were going to do, because Johnny's going to do a solo, Ralph's going to go try another solo album again, and their producers, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, said, why don't you guys start a group? They said, okay, yeah. So the three of them banded together to become Bell Biv DeVoe. Here's where this becomes interesting. Bobby had a monster album with Don't Be Cruel, bigger than anything New Edition did. Johnny Gill had a #1 pop hit with Rub Your Body the Right Way. Bell Biv DeVoe had a huge hit with Poison, which is still being played to this day. And those successes propelled them to higher heights than New Edition ever did, because New Edition was always this R&B group. Those songs propelled them into the pop music sphere. Now, here's the sad part of the story. Ralph Tresvant had a top 5 hit with the song Sensitivity, which is a cool song. But I always felt like Ralph Tresvant has always been holding the bag of New Edition. When the other members could split off and go do their own thing and not be associated with New Edition, he was always carrying that bag of being in New Edition. So he never got his just due as just a plain solo artist. If you look at a lot of his interviews at the time, he even says that. If you look at the way he dressed on stage, it was literally clearly New Edition. You'll see this in 2 instances. You can find this on YouTube. Their 1990 reunion performance, when they brought Bobby Brown back, each member did their own solo number. Ralph was last, and Ralph ended up wearing the outfit New Edition was wearing. That's one. 2, they did a BET interview. Everybody came dressed differently, Ralph came dressed with kind of like a suit. He was looking really nice. And he even said,
I'm keeping the NE dream alive. This is New Edition.
There you go.
so he always kind of had to hold that back. And unfortunately, I felt like he never got an opportunity to get away from that and establish himself as a solo artist, Ralph Tresvant. The fact that they were able to get that kind of notoriety as solo artists was very interesting because that's never happened before. Normally, you might get a little success, but you got to bring the band back together to get the big success. All right, it's time for some of my favorite song selections. Now, when I talk about my song selections, these are songs that I think if you are interested in New Edition, this kind of gives you a rough overview of how to get started. So, we're going to start with my first one, which was their first hit, Candy Girl. All right, the next one is one of my favorites, Mr. Telephone Man.
Mr. Telephone Man, there's something wrong with my life. When I die.
All right, we can't forget the jam and the steps of this next classic, If It Isn't Love.
Why do I feel this way? Why does she?
And then one of my all-time favorite tracks, ladies and gentlemen, Can You Stand the Rain?
Everybody loves me.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go check out those tracks. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Yes, and these are some great tracks to get you started if you're interested in learning more about New Edition. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Please make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and don't forget to click that notification bell because when I make a new artist spotlight, which it's coming, you're going to be one of the first ones to know about it. But until then, I'm just going to insist that you have a wonderful day. Take care. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making this one. And if you have any comments, please comments right here, likes right here, subscribe right here. Thank you again. Look forward to seeing you soon.